Hey folks, I am back with another content creator collaboration. This is I'm Roadblock. How you doing, buddy? Welcome to the channel.
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about you. As you know, the first time I have a content creator on the channel, I like to do a little bit of an interview, get to know you, introduce you to my viewers, and then we're going to be talking free-to-play challenge, probably raid in general, some gaming stuff. So it should be a lot of fun. I hope you guys stick around. I am Colred. This is Colred Plays. Let's get started. All right, so let's start off with the first question that I always ask Roadblock. What got you started in gaming? Like, where did your gaming journey begin?
Gaming journey began all the way back to the original Atari. My my family had one, and basically my when I got old enough that I was, not gonna break a controller, I was allowed to use it and play some small games on that. And then with my brother, usually then he upgraded to a Sega, and then I had the Atari until, every time he got the new console, I got the old console and would just kind of go through with that. So that's where it began for me.
I'm a younger brother too, and not being able to use your older brother's stuff is like, wait, I can only use the Atari, but you've got this, the Sega now. Why can't I also use the
Oh yeah.
Sega? Be like, no, you're not allowed to touch my stuff. So I know exactly how that feels. Any fond memories, like any specific games from the Atari that you remember?
Um the only I loved the bowling game probably the most. And honestly what I really remember was like I was so young. So like I tried to play games like Star Wars Empire Strikes Back and G.I. Joe, and I didn't know what to do. So
Yeah.
it was just it was just things were happening on the screen and I didn't know what they were. So yeah.
Yeah, I think my favorite from the original Atari was probably the Breakout series of games. Do you remember Breakout, where you had to like
Mm-mm.
so you had a paddle on the ground and you had to break bricks with the ball, and that's all it was. You were just breaking bricks all day long. And I love that game for some reason. I played that for a very long time. But okay, so moving forward, what kind of games did you gravitate towards? Like, were you mostly a console player? Did you get into PC games, or where did your gaming take you?
So I was a console player at a young age because I didn't really understand. We didn't have like a family computer. My mom had a computer for work in the
Mhm.
house, but that was it, right? We didn't have a family computer for most of my younger years. Um, I gravitate towards strategy games, and so my first experience with a strategy game was Warcraft 2 on the PlayStation, and I would rent it from Blockbuster,
Blockbuster. I knew it. I
and
knew it.
I wasn't allowed to save on my brother's because it was his console. I wasn't allowed to save on his memory card, so I would just have to keep replaying the first 3 missions
Oh, wow.
over and over again, but it was, always a lot of fun for me. So strategy games have been a big part of my gaming, life. Like, that's just my favorite type of game. I'm very like, just strategy minded. I don't know how to say it,
Yeah,
but yeah.
sure. Okay. So, I mean, obviously that leads you here to Raid Shadow Legends, but was Raid like your first gotcha game or your first hero collector, or was this sort of an evolution where you found it after a little bit of exploration?
It was my first gotcha game. Technically, I think I played other ones and didn't know. So, for example, there was kind of a version of Raid in a World of Warcraft expansion. Like, it not exactly, but you did have to get heroes like in the game and then use them in this mini game in
Okay.
WoW. I think it was Warlords of Draenor expansion. If you ever played that, and then I played a lot of Hearthstone before Raid, and they did a Hearthstone Mercenaries, which I didn't realize at the time, but that was very similar in concept to how Raid Shadow Legends kind of works.
Mm.
Um, so those were really the only games that I ever did, but I got started in Raid as everyone does by getting sponsored on my Twitch channel to play it, and it got its claws in me, and I've never looked back.
Okay, so you've got a Twitch channel. What game were you playing, by the way, before you jumped over to Raid?
Um, I went through several different main games. Heroes of the Storm was the one I pushed really hard on my channel for a very long time. Um, Before Raid and my content creation kind of took off, I would go in like 3-month spurts of streaming, right? I'd be like, no, you know what? I'm gonna do it. This is the
Right, right,
time. I would stream for 3 months and then to one viewer, myself,
right.
and then get burnt out, get demoralized, and say, okay, well, this isn't working. I'm going to move on. But one of the great thing about different streaming tools that you have available these days is that a lot of them offer these like sponsorships. And so I
Right.
saw this and I was like, I could do that. So I opened up my stream and I started streaming the started streaming Raid, and I was individually messaging many of my friends and family like, "Hey, do you want to go ahead and try this game out for me? Just get through the tutorial. That's all I need."
Yeah, it's definitely one of the games that grabs you, right away. And so I think a lot of people, like you said, have gone through that journey. They got a sponsorship and they kind of got stuck here. But at the same time, I do love the content creator community and the community of viewers here on YouTube. That's the thing that I think ultimately has grabbed me as like a, you know, content creator wanting to produce videos. Because I did the same thing. I did Twitch. I, jumped around between a couple of games. For me, I tried to do MTG Arena. That was
Hmm.
the big
Yep.
one for me. But eventually I was just like, this is the one that I'm playing the most. This is the one I watch the most videos on. I'm gonna try this space. And the community has been so good that it's really, kept me here and kept me engaged and satisfied. Have you found that, the community aspect is part of what makes it fun to create content? Or are you just like, I'm so focused on the game, it almost doesn't matter? Or is it just kind of a mix of all of it?
You're 100% right. The For all the hate that Raid Shadow Legends gets as a game, like sometimes I'm a little uncomfortable to, when I'm talking about it and they're like, "Oh, what game do you play?" And it's like, Raid
Yeah.
Shadow Legends."
Yeah.
But for all of the hate that the game gets, the community is absolutely amazing. I have nothing but support from my regular viewers, new viewers, when I do a collab and I get people coming over, I get rated and constantly on Twitch, and content creators like yourself are open to do collabs, and it's such a friendly environment. I feel like the reason is because we all just hate we hate love the game so much that we're all against Raid Shadow Legends together
Right.
almost. So yeah, I love the community, and they have really made it a lot easier. I just went through a big move and I stopped making content for probably over a month.
Hmm.
Um, and during that time, my community stuck with me. I expected to lose a lot more than what I did, not making
Mhm.
content for such a long time. My community stuck with me. They supported me. They were constantly, hey, we can't wait till you get back in my Discord and things like that. So, and then even when I got back, I was a little apprehensive about making content because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know about the drama around certain events and things, um, but I just went ahead and made a video. Comments were positive. That got me more confidence, and then now I'm back to kind of the way I was making daily videos. So yeah, shout out to the raid community for sure.
Yeah, it's funny because I agree with you, but in that answer, you also talked about how we love hate the game, right? And that I
Yeah.
think it is a bonding experience for the community to simultaneously have such passion for this game and the potential that we see in it. It's weird because it's actually like forget potential. The actual game is great, but the
Yeah.
potential is insane, right? Like we can see how good it could be. And like we've been fighting with Plarium for years to get things, and slowly things have changed. There have been improvements, and yet we're still in this love-hate relationship with this game. I think the hate maybe comes from two places, and you can tell me whether you agree or not. I think the big one is for spenders. They feel like they're getting gouged all the time. I'm a free to play player. I don't have to worry about that as much, but spenders feel like they're not getting a lot of value for the money. And then the second thing I think is that you have to spend a crazy amount of time in game in raid. And it
Mhm.
feels like you're shackled to the game sometimes. And sometimes that's cool because like sometimes you want to game for 6 hours a day, but sometimes you just don't you have a life and work and family and you can't do it. But what do you think? Where does the love part of the love hate come from and where does the hate part of the love hate relationship come from you?
I think the love comes from how gorgeous the game is for me personally. Like
Yeah.
I get so excited, to my for the longest time, my most wanted favorite champion was Cardial. I really like kind of the angelic themes of characters in video games and other stuff. And so, I finally got him on my main account and I was so excited. I barely use him because I'm just so deep on that account that he
Mm,
hasn't really made the cut yet in certain areas of but still was thrilled to get him. And I just love the look. I have recently tried to play other gotcha games and I found myself far more overwhelmed than I did when I first started playing Raid. So I don't know if there's a little bit of that in there as well. And then as far as like the hate, I agree with you on the gouging. At least recently, it really feels like the for I'm a low spend. I also do a free to play series as well, and obviously we're both doing the free to play challenge. But on my low spend account, I feel like I haven't gotten good value, and I really haven't been enticed to spend on that account in quite some time either. So, um, I missed some of the good deals, so I agree with you there. And then quality of life issues are a real problem for me. Like just even little things like a sell all button. I can't. The number of times that I end arena and I get all those rewards and I want to sell them all and I misclick and all of a
yeah,
sudden now I have to go sort through my inventory and find the six pieces of whatever or they're in the inbox and now
they're
I
in the
got to
inbox,
figure
yeah.
out
Right.
like yeah, it's such a headache. So
Yeah. Yeah, so just quickly, I wasn't planning to ask this, but since you brought it up, like if you could pick like one quality of life improvement, like one big one that you think would be universally loved by all the player base. Do you have one in
ooh,
mind?
universally loved.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Off the top of my head, I'll be honest, I don't. I have a personal one
Okay, give me
that
that.
that I this is a this is my biggest what I'm most passionate, my biggest dislike in the game is tag team. I would
Yeah.
I'm trying not to get too into the weeds about it because I've done the math on it and stuff, but the math doesn't make sense when you look at the number of people in each rank compared to what I suspect their player base is.
Yeah.
It's far too small of windows, which makes it extremely challenging, even for my main account, to break into gold unless that becomes my primary focus. And we're
Right.
talking about how many years old content is that, right? So um it's quite a bit frustrating compared to other areas of the game. So that's a pet peeve for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely one. I think another one that would be a good time save is auto battles for Doom Tower bosses. Like instant battles. You know?
Hmm.
So once you
Yeah.
clear it once that week, that rotation, you never have to actually manually fight it again or like watch the fight. You can just click and do 10 keys in 5 seconds.
Hmm.
That would save
Yeah.
me so much time every week. That would be nice. But okay, so let's talk about your raid journey a little bit as a content creator. So first of all, how long have you been playing the game? And then when did you start, like when in your raid journey did you start content creating? Well, you said you basically started with a sponsorship. So was it literally right out of the get-go you were doing content on day one, or did you wait a few weeks or months before you
I
started?
waited probably about a year.
Okay.
So when I started the game on that sponsorship, I made a clan right away. And I was like, hey, my viewers and friends and family, join my clan, right? And I just played the game, started to learn more about it, started to watch videos, started to, build and grow that clan. Um, and then it got to a point where, I was recruiting people that didn't really know what the tips and tricks and stuff that I had learned. And so I made a video for them, right? And so I just uploaded it to YouTube, didn't think anything about it, wasn't trying to go anywhere with it, just made a video for my clan, and I would get 5 viewers, then 10 the next day, and then 20, then 30, and then 40. And it's like, wait, 10 people more, like that's more than in my clan.
Yeah, right.
And then 50, and then 60, and it just started to grow very quickly. And so I was like, okay, well, this is kind of taken off a little bit. People seem to like my content. Let's change the approach. It's not just for my clan. Let's make this for everybody. And then
Right.
I've just been making videos and I haven't looked back. So I've just slowly but surely been building it up. Um, just trying to help people and give perspective on things. I don't know if I want to go too much into this because I don't want to, but be like crazy insulting or anything. But I know that I felt like as a new player at the time that a lot of content was geared towards the end game. And so
Yes.
that's why I like to try and keep my content evergreen. I have a friend of mine that has never played the game, but he's a friend of mine, so he watches the content just to support me. And in the back of my mind, I always say, okay, will he understand what I'm talking about? Or
Right.
do I need to expand upon it, you know? So if I'm like, yeah, book your champions. By the way, books, you can do that in the tavern. That's oversimplificate, that's not
Yeah.
exactly what I would do, but stuff like that, right?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's a very similar mentality to what I had when I joined, YouTube. Like when I started making content was I felt like the onboarding of the game was weak. Like, it doesn't help new players learn the game. And so I wanted to help new players learn the game. But also I think there's a transition of period. And, we're going to talk about this more with the challenge. When you start to get out of that early exciting phase of the game and you really enter the mid game grind. And I think most players quit raid right there. They're just like, no, I'm not. Like, I either have to spend hundreds of dollars or I go nowhere. So forget
Mhm.
it. I'm done. And so my videos were for those people, right? Like I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a second. Don't quit yet. If you like the game, you can get through this. Here's, some strategies, some free to play strategies or low spend strategies that you can do to make that mid game more successful, less of a grind, less painful. Um, so I think it's good that you go in with a particular mentality, you have an audience in mind, and of course that evolves over time. Now
Yeah.
that you've been doing it for a while, have you do you still think that way about your one friend? Like, let's make sure he understands it, or do you feel like I try to mix it up because some of my viewers, my early viewers, maybe are now into the mid game or even the late game, and I need to keep creating content for them as well.
Mhm. No, that's a great point. I did start to stray away from that mentality before my move. I want to get what that's what I love about the free to play challenge because that allows me to go back and
Yeah.
give those beginner tips to new players. Hey, this is what I did. I've made several different like shorter free to play series. So I've got like my main one, and then I did the challenge last year, and then when Ninja was a promo code again.
Hmm.
I went ahead and made a new free to play with just Ninja, and that one went about like 2 months or so. I hit Nightmare Clan Boss, and I was like, okay, hey guys, we're good.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
think so yeah, I don't want to talk down to my audience per se, but at the
Right.
same time, there are new viewers, and so I try to balance it in some way. So I wouldn't say something as simple as how to book your champions, but I might slip in a little thing about, make sure you're using speed boots, guys. Don't forget that, something along those lines.
Yeah. I've tried to vary it up with my videos. Like sometimes I'll do videos. I used to do it this way. I used to do videos that were kind of for early game and then videos that were kind of for mid game and then later game. And
Hmm.
now what I'm trying to do a little bit every once in a while is do a video where literally I hit all three audiences in the same video. Where I'm like,
Hmm.
if you're early game, this is the approach. If you're mid game, this is the approach. But it's interesting because I think, one of the great things about the content creator community here, we talked about how friendly they are, but is that we all also have our own experiences. Raid is that game where everybody's experience is a little bit different depending on how long you've been playing, when you started, what the RNG was, for your account. Like you were talking about Cardiel just earlier, like you were so excited to pull him, but you're not even using him. he's literally the most important champion on my account and has always been so because I pulled him 4 months into the game. So I
Yeah.
built my whole account around this powerhouse of a champion. But if you pull him 2.5 years into your journey, he may be much less valuable to you. And so like it kind of hurts my heart when you said that about Cardiel. I was like,
Yeah,
oh
well, it
man,
hurt
come
me.
on.
I wanted him so badly.
Yeah.
And I might just be misusing him. Like I'm very well
You don't
aware
have to
that
throw
it's
me a bone. It's okay. It's okay. I understand.
uh,
Hey, I've pulled amazing champions late in the game that literally can't break into my roster. I've got Hefrak
yeah.
on the bench. I've got Rotos on the bench. I've got Venus in my like I'm trying to build her because I think she'll be helpful, but I pulled her like 6 weeks ago. I still haven't booked her because there's so much going on in the game. We've got fusions,
Yeah.
we've got the free to play challenge. So I mean, every roster and raid journey I think is different, and that's cool. And that means that different content creators will speak to different players. I definitely have had the response from some commenters where they're like, "I used to like your content. I really don't watch it anymore." And I'm like, "Well, first of all, thanks for saying. Thanks for saying. You didn't have to say it, but thanks for saying." And second
Yeah.
of all, yeah, that makes sense. If you want to do end game Hydra stuff, you want to go watch Bronco or Nub or somebody else because I don't
Mhm.
do end game Hydra stuff. That's not the focus of my channel. At the
Mhm.
same time, I'm trying to create, good, entertaining content like you are. You have a focus and an idea in mind, and you grow over time. We were just talking earlier before we started recording that, the last time I looked at your channel, yeah, I think it was about 1,500, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I think it was about 1,500 subscribers, and you're up over 4,000 now. So congratulations on the
Mhm.
growth. That's awesome. And
Thank you. Thank you.
you're trying to get into the content creator program,
Yes.
which I haven't been able to do either. So we're both on the outside looking in. Um, is there a particular appeal? Like, is it the resources? Is it the access? Is it the test server? What is it about the content creator program that you think might change your content once you get in?
uh Access, thumbnails, like but trying to
Yeah.
make, like, I literally I don't we talked a little bit about this before. I'm very janky when it comes to my setup and how I go about things. So like I just will pull up a champion in the index and take a screenshot and then bring that down and then remove background, throw them, but to be able to have the promotional content that they put in their Discord, I
Yeah.
assume that's where they get these images because I can't find them myself.
Yeah.
Would be nice. And I feel like I think it was probably a bigger goal for me a few months ago before my move. I would feel like right now, um, as I start doing more collaborations and I, I don't know, for me mentally, it felt like that is to say that I'm a real content creator, but I think I'm kind of gaining that feeling myself. Like I feel like I'm just earning that. I'm growing. I'm getting outside my comfort zone, reaching out to people in what for me are very uncomfortable ways. And so um maybe it's not as important, but I do think that it um well, the fact that you're not in the program kind of changes this phrase a little bit, but I feel like it adds legitimacy to my channel.
Sure.
You
No,
know,
I understand that.
and I don't mean that to be offensive to anyone else that's not in the program. I think my mindset has changed on that a little bit, and but that always seemed like the goal. And the resources, there's been a little drama around those resources recently, so I don't know that. I mean, those would go on my main account,
Well,
just to avoid any
if you're
drama.
not a free to play content creator, like if the resources aren't going to a free to play account, there's not going to be any drama. People are just going to be like, yeah, great, Um,
Yeah.
and my personal, I've said this many times. My personal opinion is that like those are free. Like that's just god tier free to play playing. That's all it is to me. If
Yeah.
you're free to play, other people have different opinions. That's fine. But what I was going to say is, in terms of legitimacy, I think it's interesting because I just passed 13,000 subscribers recently, and I still feel, even after 18 months of doing this, like I'm kind of the new kid on the block, but clearly I'm not anymore. There are a lot of newer content creators, smaller content creators who have entered the space in the last 18 months. And so, one of the things when you're talking about perspective is that Like if you watch a video of a content creator, you're like, oh yeah, yeah, that's my content creator that I'm watching. It doesn't matter if he started a month ago because you started a month after him, you know, or
Yeah.
you started watching those videos. And so if your journey has been, you know, informed by a content creator, you just feel like they're a foundation of your community or the way you view the raid community. And so I, you know, I'm trying to recognize it like that's actually more for me, that's more a measure of the legitimacy of a channel. You know,
Yeah.
if you are producing and helping players and that community is growing and they look at you and they say, this is my guy and I watch him and he's helped me, then that's what makes the channel a good channel. You know, the content creator program is a perk, but Plarium doesn't get to decide who's important or not important as a content creator,
Yeah.
you know? And so I hope you get into the program because I know you want to and I think it would be helpful. But if you don't, just know that I look at you as a legitimate content creator, so does your community. And
Yeah.
ultimately, you know, if your channel keeps growing, who cares what Plarium says? You
Yeah.
know?
I don't want to go in the weeds too much on this, but I
Yeah,
do talk at length on my channel about, you know, mental health struggles and things that I struggle with. And so I feel you with that like imposter syndrome. I feel like I have a lot. And my community, just like we already talked about, they build me up and tell me, nah, dude, you're good. It's okay. Like, you know, and so um, I really think that I'll still try to because of the perks, but
sure.
yeah, I do agree with you that you know if you would have asked me several months ago, I would have been like, that's my goal.
Right.
But now it's a little bit more. Let's just try and make good content for people, and you know the more viewers that are watching and the you know the more support that I receive, then I can maybe create. We talked about editing before this, right? And maybe I can get an editor and a thumbnail art, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
and these things to help grow and evolve the channel into something even you know more appealing for the audience. So
Yeah, no, I think that's great. But I do think the content creator program provides it provides a goal or a measuring stick for you early on. You know, you think, oh, I need 1,000 subs in order to get into the tier 1, and then I think tier 2 is at like 5 and tier 3 is at 8,000 or something. And you're like, you know, you hit those numbers and you're like, "Oh, I'm growing with like in relation to the content creator program." But realistically, like you said, it's your community that matters and if you keep growing
mhm.
and you can evolve the channel, then great. Um but so let's talk about that a little bit. Let's shift gears and talk about, you know, the evolution of your channel now right now is revolving around the free to play challenge. And you said you did it
Mhm.
last year. Did you do content on it last year or was that sort of
I did.
before? Okay. And so this year, first of all, I noticed you up on the leaderboard, so you're doing well. Congratulations. What was your focus for this year's challenge? Like in terms of the account and then in terms also of the content you want to produce about the challenge?
Um, my focus was efficiency. Last year I I I take everything. I'm a very competitive person, and I took it seriously,
Yeah.
but it was incredibly frustrating for me. My personal experience was quite frustrating, and I think that I enjoyed it less because there was never this hope of a legendary around the corner. You know, it was like it kinda I think I got to a point where it was like Geomancer or bust. You know, and so I kind of fell out of it a little earlier than I would have liked. It showed me a lot of weaknesses in my own game, and when you're comparing yourself directly to other players, it can be, you know, oh my god, they're already doing nightmare, and
Right.
I'm barely doing hard. What? How? You know?
Yeah.
But I will say the one thing that I really like about your content and the stuff that I've seen from you, especially recently, talking about strategy for the free to play challenge, is that you can catch up in this game. You
Yeah.
know, so I'm feeling really good about it, and that's my biggest goal is to make it the whole 3 months dedicated to it. Like, let's do this thing. And yeah, I'm just really excited about it.
That yeah, that's great. And I do think I've had this conversation with a lot of people recently that the challenge is not the typical free to play experience, right?
Yeah,
it's a modified free to play experience. It is free to play. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it can't help you understand free to play. You know, it can certainly push the boundaries of what we collectively think of as possible for free to play, which I love about it. But ultimately, you're going to make decisions in these 90 days to get yourself points in the competition that would go against what you would do for a free to play account if you were building it for the long term. And so
Yeah.
yeah, so this year I've changed my focus to focus on the second thing. Like I'm going to use this account as an opportunity to do content on good free to play practices and recognize the difference between the two. But simultaneously, I love how far people push these accounts. And the access to legendaries this year is just going to open up, you know, it's going to take the roof off of it. The ceiling is
Oh
going
yeah.
to be so much higher than it was last year because of the access to legendaries. Speaking of which, have you pulled any legendaries on your account?
No.
Not yet. Okay. Neither have
Not
I.
yet.
I haven't even pulled any shards yet. So, what's
Yeah.
your current approach? Who are you investing in, and where are you trying to make the most progress? Are you just grinding that 60, or are you working in other areas?
So well, I wanted to touch quickly. So in the last one, I
Hmm.
pulled shards. I YOLO'd all my shards,
Right.
and I regretted that decision when the Ancora fusion, came about, right? And so I learned my lesson from that. So I'm trying to save shards. I did pull my two sacreds because I managed. So I completed brutal and hard. That was one of my big focuses early, was to get hard and brutal to get those early sacreds and pull them during the 2x.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
I'm only pulling, well, not only, but trying to pull during 2x's. Um I have been doing missions and challenges, they have been guiding me, and I've been researching ahead of time and saying, okay, well, I don't want to ascend Kale yet because I need to wait till this um
Right.
uh mission comes up, right? And so I'm pre-planning and like trying to be as efficient as I can. If I'm doing something and it's not getting me double the rewards in some way, then I take another look at it and see, okay, well, is this helping me towards a mission? Is this helping me towards a 60? What is this doing for me? And maybe we pivot and do something else. So that results in a slightly slower 60 than a lot of the other
Right.
creators have right now. But I think I'm further in missions and challenges than they are.
Yeah, and that's a similar approach to what I've taken this year. I think when you have a little bit less time, one of the things about this challenge is that the more hours that you put in, the more you'll get out of the account in the first few weeks. You eventually run into a wall where you don't have any more energy, so you can't
Yeah.
spend 8 hours or 10 hours a day in game, or 15 hours a day like I did last year. Probably, I think the first day I streamed 16 hours straight of playing, and it was kind of crazy. This year I did 9 hours on the first day. On the second day, I only did like 5 or 6 hours. I'm backing off again today. So I'm hoping that the slower approach can still keep pace by focusing on the missions and the challenges like we're talking about. So every action is intentional, and it's moving towards resources, or it's moving towards a purpose. I don't think I'm going to have my first 6 star for probably the first 5 or 6 days. If that, it might even be slower than that. And if I get to Alice and I don't have a 6 star yet, she might become my first 6 star. I'm not 100% sure if I'll go with my starter champion or Alice if I get there with just the chickens and I haven't actually, 6 starred anybody. What's your approach in terms of the champions that you are developing and how you see Alice in all of this? Like, what's your strategy for that?
Um, so I am focusing on my starter champion to be my first 6 star, mostly for campaign farming purposes. Now, I haven't watched any content on Alice because I've been so consumed by the challenge,
Yeah.
and making my own content on it. But I don't know how effective of a campaign farmer that she would be in comparison. I started with Kale, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm kind of leaning into Kale, but I will say that Kale's campaign farming for me at 12-3 brutal at level 50. So maybe I don't need to 6 star him. I don't know. I'll
Yeah.
have to kind of have that mental analysis to make that decision. But I I also pulled Alika,
Oh, wow.
which they
Okay.
are two very
Yeah.
similar champions, I feel like, with their kits. So, um, yeah, Alice, I'm excited to use her. I think she's gonna help me a lot in the arena, especially, and you know, the fact that we are going to be able to get the 5-star blessing over time, of course, but that's going to help with clan boss,
Yeah.
um brimstone, that kind of stuff. So definitely going to fit into my plans, especially having not pulled a legendary yet. But it is a little demoralizing right now when some people have pulled Harima in their first shard.
Yeah.
It can be difficult to kind of um mentally get past that, but like I really mean it. I wasn't just sucking up. Um, the fact that because you had a slower start last year, is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was very slow to start.
And then if I remember correctly, you finished in second
I did.
place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that the reality of the point system and everything is that there's a cap. You can only do so high in each dungeon to get the max points. So it's achievable to catch up. When someone hits that ceiling, all you got to do is hit that ceiling too, and now you're caught up, and then maybe past them in some other areas of the game. So, uh, I'm excited, and I don't think that there are too many wrong decisions that you could really make this early. It's just different approaches, I would say.
Right. Yeah, for me, I think in specifically in that aspect of the catching up, one of the things that you should watch out for is when there are one-time point rewards that you can get. So those are last year, every 30 days we got like bonuses for where we finished on the leaderboards. And basically this is my approach in free to play and always has been, but specifically in this challenge format, which is do the things that you know are right for a free to play account. Grow your resources. Double dip, triple dip as often as you can. Be patient, be measured. Don't give in to that impulse of like wasting resources because you get frustrated and then make a call about when to go hard for those extra points. So in the last 72 hours or the last 24 hours, whatever you think you need to push that dragon from stage 10 to stage 17, then that's when you go all in to get those extra points. And then as soon as you get those bonus points, you go right back to really careful resource management, double and triple dipping everywhere that you can, and just being patient because the points don't count until the month ends, right? And it's like, so you have 29 days or however many days you think it's going to take to set yourself
Hmm.
up for success. And then you push for those bonuses. And that's what I did last year. And that let me keep pace in the first month because even though I was very far behind, I didn't get any good shard pulls for a long time. Um, at the end of the first month, I still pushed as hard as I could, so I didn't fall too far behind. And then by the second month, I was already starting to catch up in terms of momentum. And so the second month was very good. And then by the end, Crop and Drock and I were just sprinting away from everybody. Um,
Yeah.
and so definitely the measured approach is still what I'm going to be doing this year. And like you said, it helps to know that that's possible to keep you from getting frustrated when you see people pull Yumiko's. Somebody got a Yumiko yesterday, and
I
I'm
did
like,
not see that, but oh my
it's
gosh.
insane, So it's like I don't know that I'm going to be able to chase that down, but that's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind because I'm not competing that hard this year. But you still have time. You still have time, and that first fusion may be very telling. If you
Yeah.
successfully complete that fusion and nobody else, or some of those higher guys don't, you're going to start to make progress where they're not. And we'll see how Alice plays. I don't know for sure either, but it's going to be interesting to see. But okay, so this has been really fun. We're definitely going to talk some more free to play challenge over on Roadblock's account. But for right now, just thanks for hanging out. It's been fun to have you here on our first collab. Hopefully, we could get you back on the channel in the future. Good luck with YouTube and growing your account or your
Thank you.
channel, and good luck with the challenge. Do you have any last words that you want to share here with the viewers?
Um, well, I just want to say thank you, first of all. Thank you for having me. This really does mean a lot. And to my viewers, it's already been mentioned a couple of times, but I am making a big push to 5,000 subscribers. That's my next big goal. So If you'd be so kind to help me out, I'd appreciate it. But if not, I completely understand.
All right, that's awesome. Definitely go and check out Roadblock's channel. I will provide a link to that, and give a couple of views. And if you are interested, help him make that push to 5K subs. All right, that is it for us today. Thanks so much for hanging out. He is Roadblock. I am Colred. We will see you in another video soon.